I think the journey of your whole life is figuring out how to truly like and love yourself. Sometimes when the dream is so big, the fact that it's so big becomes paralyzing. The power is always in you, and I think that's something that's so important to constantly remind yourself.
Need motivation?
Watch the Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like 9 for my top 10, top 10, 9 and 9. This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because chances are you are the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more. And you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Mel Robbins, and my take on her top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Love yourself.
I think that the work that we all have to do, every single one of us, whether you bulldoze, whether you people please, whether you avoid conflict, whether you're impulsive, whether you yo-yo your decisions, whatever it is that is your pattern, the constant trashing yourself. I think the journey of your whole life is figuring out how to truly like and love yourself.
Rule number 2, savor the moment.
If you are afraid of disappointing people, if you're afraid that you're not good enough, you may catch that in one area of your life, but as your life gets bigger and as you change, it'll creep in other areas. And one way that those patterns where you don't think you deserve it, or you don't think you're good enough, or you're terrified of disappointing people comes into play is when you start to expect the worst. And so catch it. That's the first step. You can't break your pattern unless you see it. And then you're going to replace it. And what I'm going to start doing is I've got this little app on my watch. You can set it on your phone where every 3 hours it reminds me to breathe. And I notice the second that the alarm goes off, I've been holding my breath. And so you can set a little alarm in your phone. Megan's laughing. You can set a little alarm in your phone that just says savor. It's a reminder to take a minute. You can make it say take a minute. Take a minute, look around, compliment yourself on what's going right. Because expecting the worst is something you taught yourself to do. Guess what? You can teach yourself to take a minute and to savor what's going right. And the more you force yourself to do it, the more it'll become a habit.
Rule number 3, regain your power.
It comes back to the core message that I always have for you. No matter what's happening around or to you, you hold the power. Because you always have the power to have an honest conversation. You always have the power to discuss how things are impacting you. You always have the power to make requests. And you certainly have the power to draw boundaries. And you also have the power, by the way, if the culture gets worse and worse, or you just are tired of it because it's not changing, to go find a different job. The power is always in you. And I think that's something that's so important to constantly remind yourself. I get that I don't like where I am, but what could I do to change it? How can I change how I think about this? And I'm telling you right now, you know this. The second you start changing how you think about a situation, the situation changes. The second you start changing how you think about what your options are, you start to see them. The second you stop thinking that you're stuck or that you're a victim and you start thinking about how you solve something, you start to see solutions. And so the answer is always in you.
Rule number 4, slow down.
If you look at human development, we're the only species that literally can't survive without another human being taking care of you. And so we are biologically hardwired to bond with other people. And that is from the very beginning of when you come out, bonding with somebody else and making sure they pay attention to you is your survival imperative. So you are born needing somebody else. And I think what ends up happening is there's never that kind of clean break or pass off between needing your parents to take care of you, needing your friends' approval to fit in, to truly having ownership over giving yourself what you didn't get, giving yourself what you needed. And that's the piece that I've been doing a lot of during the great pause, is slowing down, because so much of my busyness was fueled by, praise me, love me. Am I doing enough? Please tell me I'm doing okay. Okay, I can breathe now. I'm okay now. And when I slow down, and maybe it's a function of the anxiety, that's when things get scary, because that's when you've really got to be with yourself.
Also, if you want to have more self-belief and more self-confidence, I've created a special free program where every day for the next 254 days, I will send you an unlisted video to help you boost your self-belief and self-confidence. The link to join for free is in the description below.
You're always going to need to push yourself. You're always going to need to parent yourself. If you didn't give a shit what anybody else thought, what's the thing you would love to be doing with your life? The prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that you need in order to learn new behavior, in order to do something difficult, in order to do something uncertain, in order to do strategic thinking.
Rule number 5, do a friend cleanse.
The reason why it's so important to start with a friend cleanse, and I'm sure a lot of you, how many of you heard that and you thought, oh my God, getting rid of people. Oh boy, I'm going to cleanse these friends. Yes and no. A friend cleanse is critical because the single most influential thing around you are the people that you hang out with. And if you have relationships that are toxic, if you have relationships that cause guilt, if you have relationships that are creating drama in your life, if you have relationships that are not equitable, guess what? That's creating the overwhelm. That's creating unhappiness. That's keeping you doubting yourself. If you have friends that have bad habits, guess what? That's making it really, really hard for you to change your habits for the good.
Rule number 6, practice stress management.
You have this behavior pattern where you snap. You have this behavior pattern where you yell and you get upset and you make people wrong and you don't mean to. If you are somebody who's ever said to yourself, I wish I could stop yelling, or I wish I could just snap, I could stop snapping. This video is absolutely unbelievable, okay? And the reason why is I explained this research that was so mind-blowing for me. It's called Ghosts in the Nursery. A lot of the patterns that you have that you don't have control over are patterns from your childhood, and they are there because when you were a kid, you experienced people in your life that were tense. Did you ever have a parent that was a yeller? Did you ever have a teacher that was a yeller, or a coach that was a yeller? And secretly in your little kid body, whenever your mom or dad would yell, or your coach would yell, or your teacher would yell, or your grandmother or grandfather would yell, you would feel tense, right? You would feel nervous. You would feel on edge. Of course, that's how we all feel, right? Well, here's the reason why you might have an issue, like I used to have an issue, where I would yell at my kids and then I'd feel terrible about it. I'd snap at my husband and then I'd feel terrible about it. Psychologists, and then I would say to myself, I'm not doing that again, I'm not doing that again, but I wouldn't have the ability to end it. Psychologists call this ghosts in the nursery. It means that any situation where you start to feel tense or you start to feel stressed out, guess what happens? Your body remembers what it was like when you were little to feel tense and stressed out. And what were the adults doing around you when you felt that way? They were snapping. They were yelling. And now here you are repeating the pattern. And you don't know why. And you feel guilty. And I'm explaining this to you because it wasn't until I thought, holy cow, like I know I don't want to snap at my husband. I know I don't want to take my anger from work out on my family. Why can't I stop this? That's the reason why. It's because it's a pattern that you remember from being a kid, that the adults around you were snapping or yelling or being mean anytime, and when they were, you felt tense and stressed out. So now that you're an adult, when you're tense and stressed out, you repeat the behavior that you witnessed. Crazy, right? So how do you stop it? Well, the first step to stopping anything is to actually understand what you're dealing with. Now that you know you're dealing with a pattern, now all you need to do is basically say, okay, I'm going to put a practice in place that's going to interrupt this pattern. What's the practice? Well, a really good one is before you walk in the house at the end of the day, if you're stressed out, take 5. Take 5 deep breaths. Like reset your mood, reset your energy before you walk in the house, and you'll be surprised by how much nicer you are to the people around you. Another thing that you can do, and this one's not so fun, is you can train your partner, your kids, your roommates, your family, that if you're trying to get a hold of how you bring stress home, you can train them to say to you, hey, don't take your work stress out on me. When somebody that you care about says that to you, it's a humbling experience. And the person that says it the most in my life is my son, Oakley. The youngsters seem to love to cross-check the adults. So be careful with taking that advice.
Rule number 7, break the patterns.
I know that in this next chapter that I consciously create, I want to have more fun. I really want to love the process.
Yeah.
I don't want to make it so hard on myself and be gripping everything so tight. And it's really easy for me to see it in other people because I know what it feels like in here. I'm working hard to break the patterns that still hold me back. And the big one that holds me back is bulldozing. It's literally when I start to feel any level of tension. This is particularly true in my marriage. I'm married to a saint. Thank God Chris Robbins meditates every morning. It's the only reason why we've lasted 26 years. It's how he puts up with me. When I feel my whatever emotion rise, I immediately raise my voice.
Wow.
It's how I assert power in the relationship. And I am so committed, Lewis, to breaking that pattern.
Wow.
And being a more fun person to be around and a kinder person to be around.
Rule number 8, find what energizes you.
First of all, stop talking about passion. Stop talking about launching a business, okay? When you think about it too big, it will paralyze you. If you're lucky and you're in a position where your bills are getting paid and you have the luxury of being able to try to think about what you want to do in this next chapter, here's where I want you to start. I want you to start with what energizes you. Now, how ironic is that, given that I'm speaking at the Energetic Women's Conference here in Indianapolis today? Why am I saying energizes you? And what am I talking about when I say energize? When I say energizes you, I'm asking you, what is it that you're curious about? What is it that you feel so expanded? You feel energized. You feel kind of excited whenever you're doing it. You're in a phase when you're just trying to figure out what's your next move, of just paying attention to your curiosity, paying attention to the things that interest you. The truth is, passion is just energy. If you're passionate about something, it means you're energized when you do it. So let's reverse engineer this and let's just ask yourself a simple question. What are you curious about? What energizes you? And if you allow yourself to explore things that energize you, you, my friend, will start to find the clues about what it is that you should and could be doing. Because all the research says that if you're doing something that you like, if you're doing something that you're curious about, you're not only going to enjoy it, you're going to be really good at it. Because if you like doing it, you'll spend more time doing it, which means you're going to get better at it.
Rule number 9, start small.
Sometimes when the dream is so big, the fact that it's so big becomes paralyzing because you think about where you are right now and you think, holy cow, that thing that I really want? How do you even start when the dream is so big? So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to shrink it down because you know me, I am all about simplicity. I'm all about making sure that the advice works for you because if it doesn't work for you, you're not going to do it. And I'm all about switching how you think about things, making this smaller and making it something that I'm learning about rather than doing and launching and that somehow thinking about it differently frees up the ability to get started. If I get you to start doing that, and you do this every day for 10 or 15 minutes, which you absolutely can, guess what's going to happen? You're going to feel momentum. You're going to feel like you're working on it. You're going to meet people that are interested in it. You're going to learn things that are going to lead to the next thing that you need to learn. And you will have mastered the art of getting started. And by doing something a little bit every day, you're also going to master the art of continuing to keep going. And from there, it'll snowball. I promise you. I promise you.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is stop comparing yourself to others.
You see, you're only ever running against yourself. There's room for all of us. There's room for you to do the same thing. There's room for you to write that book. There's room for you to do those makeup tutorials. There's room for you to launch that restaurant. There's room for you to start your singing lessons. There's room for you to write that song. It is normal, and it is going to happen to you all the time that you are going to see people that seem to block out the sun whenever they make an announcement because they're that big and that amazing. I don't want you to allow yourself to shrink when somebody else is doing something that is similar to what you want to do.
Now I've got a special bonus clip that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I want to know, what was your single biggest takeaway from this video? And what is your specific plan of action for the next week? When you just watch a video and get motivated by it, you have a 35% chance of following through. But when you get motivated and then create a specific plan of action, you have a 91% chance of following through. That's what we do here, Believe Nation. We get motivated, but then we do something about it. And when you commit to other people, you increase your chances even further of following through. So, what was your biggest takeaway from this video? And then what is your plan of action around it for this week? Put it down in the comments below because I want to celebrate you.
Refresh your routine. Why is this important? I'll tell you why this is important. Because there is so much science that talks about the power of your morning routine. And there's also so much noise out there about the morning routine. And I don't know about you, but when I read all these articles about the power of a morning routine, I'm typically reading them by some male influencer who clearly doesn't have children yet, or some male CEO. No offense to the dudes, but all of the articles out there tend to be written by guys that have 2.5 hours before work starts to somehow drink mushroom tea and meditate and go to yoga and exercise and drink bulletproof coffee and sit in an infrared sauna. And I don't know what planet these people live on, but they clearly don't have children or a job they need to get to at 8 o'clock in the morning. And not to make anyone wrong, I'm being realistic. I'm being realistic about the fact that you need a morning routine, but you need one that works for you and for where you are in your life in this season. You see, I had a morning routine that used to take me 30 to 40 minutes last year when I had more time. I've had a morning routine that took an hour when I had time and the ability to go for a jog in the morning. I'd incorporate that in the morning routine. Do you realize that my morning routine right now has been responsible for helping me curb my anxiety? It's responsible for why I'm so successful and I'm able to be productive. My morning routine, 10 minutes long. That's it. It's 10 minutes long because that's what works for me in this season of my life.
If you want 10 more awesome rules from Mel Robbins, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
My own mind, because it's not something I'm used to yet, is making up stories to cling to the old way of life.